Hey, it's Justin Goff. I'm here with Copy Accelerator member Jerrod Harlan. And today we're going to break down how Jerrod went from being a newbie at copywriting to making over six figures within his first 12 months, which is a pretty impressive feat. Most copywriters, it takes a long time to get to that six-figure level. It definitely took me a lot longer than that. It took me a few years, actually. So to go from kind of just getting into the industry to making six figures by the end of his first year is pretty damn impressive. So having him on to kind of share a bit of his story on how he did it, what he's doing now, and a lot of the stuff he's learned, especially from email, because Jerrod is a master at email in terms of getting more sales, more revenue, better opens, all that stuff. So we're going to dig into that. Jerrod, let's start with kind of how you got into direct response. This is always a really interesting story because almost nobody grows up saying I want to be a direct response copywriter.
Yeah.
Everybody always has a very weird story of how they fell into this business. So I'm kind of curious to hear
It's
you.
always like they ended up in jail or they needed a way to make money in jail or something. So I actually owned a brick and mortar print franchise in the suburbs of Chicago. After being in face-to-face sales for pretty much my adult working life, like my whole adult working life, I sold cars, personal training sales, things like that. And one day, I was doing that for a year and a half at this point, and I was just really getting burnt out. Like brick and mortar is really hard. I think I needed to make like $16,000 a month just to cover the hard costs of the business. It was insanity. So I was burnt of that. I was burnt of all the networking events that happened that you had to go to. I was burnt of like just the face-to-face sales and the idea of like walking into a business and talking to somebody and trying to sell your stuff. I hate that. I hate it so much. So one day I'm at Barnes and Noble and literally just killing time because I don't want to go back to back to the shop. And I'm in the business section because I was kind of on like a reading spree at that point. I was reading just business books. I read like the 4 Hour Work Week and stuff. And then I stumbled on The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy. And it was like on sale for like $8 or something like that. I picked it up, read the back cover, read like the first couple pages, and I was like, this sounds pretty interesting. I mean, if I can legitimately take what I know about sales and sort of just put it in writing and make more money, sign me up for that because I'm all about it.
That's really interesting that Barnes and Noble's actually carried that book. To me, in my head, that seems very, very strange that they would actually play. Like, I mean, you find it on Amazon, obviously, and other obscure plays, but it's not like some big, like,
Yeah.
like 4 Hour Work Week. Obviously, that's at Barnes and Noble's, but like,
I think they had it like under the bookshelf. It was like covered in dust and stuff. Somebody put it under there.
it probably been there for like 15 years.
Yeah. it literally came out and then I bought it. It was just sitting on the
So,
shelf for 30
okay,
years.
so you got the book, you started reading it, you got interested in, okay, there's something here. I think I could probably do this, especially with having the background in face-to-face sales that gives you a leg up over most people who are just kind of coming in blind. Um,
Yeah.
when was kind of the first time you actually started to put it to use?
So I was on that typical trajectory of like I really want to do this, but I'm paralyzed by fear because I don't know what I'm doing. And if I take a client, I can't charge for it because I haven't done anything. So I ended up spending way too much money on books and courses and stuff like that, like way too much money. And it got to a point where I actually found out my wife was pregnant. And I knew at that point that I had like 8 months to figure shit out or I was going back to like a desk job or, selling cars or something because I wasn't going to be the dad who was like, oh, screw this responsibility. I want to follow my dreams of being a copywriter. So I had 8 months to work this shit out. And my first thought was, okay, well, if you're a copywriter, you know, you should probably have samples. So like I wrote a couple of email campaigns just like for made up businesses. Um, like a January 1st campaign for a gym and a Mother's Day campaign for a flower shop. Just things like that that would literally like I could just show to somebody if they were even interested in hiring me. And so I did the route of like trying to pitch myself for free, which when you're a newbie, like you don't understand why that's such a bad why that's such a bad pitch. Um, but I did it, of course, because everybody, does. And then finally I got to the point where I was like, okay, none of this is working. And I actually hired a mentor. And I was in Copy Chief at the time because that was one of those things that I put on a credit card that I shouldn't have. But, I'm happy I did now. I came across Chris Orzakowski, who was just starting to get his like name out there within the Copy Chief sort of email world. Now he had written for like Jeff Walker and NeuroGym and stuff like that. So he was already an established copywriter. But just in terms of like his persona within the copywriting community, it was just sort of starting to blow up. So I reached out to him after I got on his email list and he mentioned something about mentees, about one of his mentees. And I said, hey, I don't know if you do this, what you charge, anything like that, but would you be willing to, take on me as a mentee? And he said, yeah, he shot me the PayPal link. I paid and we did our, 6 sessions together. And it was amazing because he was an in the trenches copywriter already. And so he had gigs coming to him that he didn't promise, like, hey, if you hire me to be your mentor, I'm not just going to hand you gigs, but if I do have something that I don't want to take, like, I'll intro you. So I just happened to be with him at the right time where he had like 3 or 4 gigs come into him that he passed along to me, or like he made the connection for me. Being that I was in sales, I closed the deals because I just know how to talk to people. So that wasn't an issue for me at all. And that was like the start. I built up enough from those 4 gigs to sell the business, which I just took a wash on because again, it was like it was profitable, but it has to be, as a brick and mortar, even if you're a little bit profitable, you're lucky to get a wash when you sell a business. And it gave me the comfort to be like, okay, I have 3 months, I have like 3 to 4 months where I can, if I get no paying clients in this time, I can still pay all my bills. It's fine. But I need to give every shot possible to make this work because, I have a kid on the way. Um, and so that was the start. Like we moved from Chicago to Pittsburgh. I wasted 3 of those months doing stupid bullshit that I thought, would help me, but really wasn't. Like I was just scared. I was just real chicken to get started. And it all started when I got an actual referral. So I was very active in this one copywriting Facebook group, a private group. And the guy who ran the group saw that I was like, I was being active, right? I was putting my name out there. I was sharing stuff that I was like learning, or I was just learning out loud. And he made a referral for me. And so that's how I ended up at my first like actual real full-time copywriting gig, writing in the biz op niche. And so that was fun. And I had a client literally 1 week before I got that introduction. I started writing for a big name in the survivalist industry because I sent him this like 1,000+ word email just saying that I wanted to work with him because he posted a job on the Copy Chief board. He liked my attitude in my email, which was just like ridiculously long. Nobody should nobody should send 1,000-word email, but he loved the attitude. I basically just was like, hey, look, I'm new, but I'm super, super hungry to become good at this. And, whatever, pay me next to nothing. I just want to come in and provide results.
So those first couple clients, the biz op one, the survival one, how much were you kind of making, let's say monthly, like ballpark with that stuff?
At the BizOp place, I had a salary of 3,000 a month. Yeah, 3,000 a month plus $1 per front end sale. So it was like an Agora setup.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the survivalist client, the first sales letter that I wrote, I made 1,500. And I made what, 2,500 on the next one after that. And I ended up doing like 8 sales letters in a year for this guy.
Wow.
So it was a really worthwhile, relationship to build from that one email that I sent. So
Right. I'm kind of curious. So that first year as a copywriter is always interesting because you don't know anything really, and you just struggle a lot. And the whole time you're thinking like, how the hell did I get this job? I don't know anything. Just like a
oh, I
lot
still
of
feel like that.
self-doubt, a lot of mistakes.
I feel
I'm
like that
kind
every day.
of, I mean, it's kind of the life of a writer. Constantly just doubting yourself. I'm kind of curious that first year, what was like one of the main things you really struggled with?
I was only as good as the feedback I was getting. So I could take direction really well. And once I had that direction, you know, either handed to me or it came out in a conversation, like I could take it and run with it. But on my own, I had like if I was just left to my own devices, I never would have been able to figure any of this out. It was just through means of like having conversations with the client and pitching ideas and him just like blatantly no. Like this sucks, do something else. I suggest this, I suggest that. And it toughens you up really quickly because you learn not to be emotionally attached to when your ideas are rejected, which is probably the best thing that you can do as a new copywriter is just become emotionally unconnected from your writing and your results and your ideas, anything like that. Um, so that was the biggest struggle was just like understanding structure, understanding what the heck a big idea actually is, what makes a lead, because I didn't have Copy Accelerator when I started out. Like I've been in it since practically day one, but I didn't have it starting out. So that was like the biggest struggle for me.
How did you? So you're pretty well known for being one of the writers who did a lot of stuff for Natural Health Sherpa. Um, the BizOp, from what I remember, the BizOp company ran into some issues and that kind of went under. That is that when you kind of transferred over to Sherpa?
The crazy thing is, and it was very serendipitous timing. I left for Sherpa the day before it was announced that the company went down, like the company went under.
Wow.
So it was just super lucky timing on my part. But I was already in the middle of that transition anyway. It just happened to be like the very day that I started with Sherpa. I heard that the owner said, "Hey, the FTC is shutting us down. We can't do anything."
Wow. And so for people listening who don't know, Natural Health Sherpa is probably one of the biggest players in the health space, direct response health space, massive email list. Did you go right in doing email stuff at Sherpa, or were you doing other stuff there?
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't even want to do email stuff. I met the copy chief from Sherpa at a live event, which is how I ended up even getting the offer and everything. And I went in wanting to write long form. And it was like a little bit into the probation period that the copy chief was like, "Hey, you're going to start working with Tanner for writing some emails." And I did not want to do it. Did not. I hated the idea of it. The emails that they were putting out made no sense to me because I was like used to the story emails. I was used to like relationship. Oh, just tell a story about something that happened in your day and then relate it back to a product. So reading these like 100-word emails that were just the epitome of direct response made no sense to me, and I fought it like tooth and nail about writing it. But I was getting paid a paycheck, so you got to do what you got to do. And I just like I fell in love with it, honestly, just because of seeing the data and stuff. So pretty early on at Sherpa, I got into the email program, but it wasn't like my intention.
So, all right. So you started there. You started doing the emails. They run a pretty sophisticated email setup there. I mean, multiple things getting tested, multiple copies of emails going out. Really like sourcing offers like well in advance. Like it's not a thing that's like all thrown together the night before. That's kind of a good tip too for anyone who's running serious volume on email. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just a fly by night kind of, oh, we're going to send this today kind of thing. Um, so I'm kind of curious, what were some of the biggest things, like one or two things that you kind of learned in your time at Sherpa that really kind of changed um, how the way you see email and how you kind of get such good results?
I would say the biggest thing was editing, being such an important part of the process. Like there's something to say for writing a piece of copy and just getting it out and testing it. But when you have a lot of money on the line, you have to make the crispest, clearest, like most intriguing email that you can because you want to give every product the opportunity to be successful to your list. Because naturally, you want every product to bring you money. So you want every product to win, but that's obviously not the case. That's impossible. Um, but I had that sort of beaten in my head throughout the prior year that I was copywriting before entering Sherpa was like, oh, just write a piece of copy and get it tested because it's the who can take the most swings of the bat. Sure, to some degree, but it didn't really run like that at Sherpa because again, you were saying we had a backlog of offers, we had a backlog of emails that needed to be tested. So there was no point in me just writing 20 emails a week because they'd never be tested. So instead, we focused on writing a handful of emails a week and making them so incredibly good through editing over and over and over again that every offer had the best chance of winning. Um, and like I would write a draft, and I learned this all from Tanner. And like, actually, saw Tanner in Austin, and he made the joke that I'm his second biggest fan, only to his girlfriend. Um, and my initial thought was like, I'll let her believe what she wants, but I don't think that's true. So basically, he taught me like, hey, look, you write a draft, you let it sit to the side, you edit it, you edit again, you edit again and again and again. And then we would come together as a team and edit each other's emails. And like that's why they were so crisp. That's why I became so good was because I would spend 6, 7 editing rounds on this 120 word email. And it's like you can't do that for months and months and months on end without just getting good in the process and actually faster in the process.
Yep. And then having someone there editing your stuff and you giving feedback to him giving feedback to you. And then you both seeing the
Exactly.
stats on what's actually working, what's not working. That's kind of the secret sauce there because this is the one thing that holds like a lot of the newer copywriters back is they're writing, but they're never seeing stats. Like if you're never seeing what's
Yep.
actually working and what's not working, it's super hard to know what you should be writing, what you shouldn't be writing. You might just keep making the same mistakes over and over. But when you see in the real stats every day of like what's actually selling, okay, this story angle did really, really well, or ooh, this menopause angle did really, really well, or this really weird subject line we ran did great. That's the type of stuff you can start cataloging that and creating a kind of framework for okay, every time we send something with like the thyroid angle, it works. So let's just keep hitting our
Yep.
list.
And that was actually going to be number two. Number two was going to be data because it's so incredibly important. And when you have that big of a list, like the data that you can get is so much more granular and so much more fun to work with because the data that you get when you have a million person list is not like, oh, this sort of angle works. Like, yeah, that is, you get that data too, but you get the data of like, what specifically do these people care about to the most granular level? Like, do they respond more if you call it tummy, belly, stomach, whatever? Like you can find that stuff out through testing with a huge list because you reach that statistical significance point, and it's pretty incredible to see.
Yep.
Um, I explain it like, when I was in car sales, every time I sold a car, you get this like huge dopamine hit. It's like anytime you write an email that wins, you get that same huge dopamine hit. And you literally just become addicted to like seeing the data, seeing the results, writing the emails because it becomes fun and exciting.
I always say the most fun part of internet marketing is hitting the refresh button on the stats, like what I live for. Um,
Yep.
so one thing I want to chat with you about is the difference between kind of working in-house and being a freelancer. So a lot of people who are newer really have an aversion to working in-house because they want to kind of live the dream life of being the freelancer, making six figures, all that, not having to go to meetings. And I 100% understand that. That's kind of the route I took. Um, but it's very obvious that for a lot of people who do the in-house thing and then branch out, they end up doing really damn well. I think you and Tanner are two great examples of it because, like we said, you get to see all the data and you get to see exactly what works. And once you have the experience, I mean, the most valuable thing for that is when you know what works, what doesn't work, you can go do a million different things because you could go like you guys now, you both run other email lists now. You could start your own email agency. You could partner with someone and take a percent of the profit. I mean, there's just so much stuff you can do once you know what works and what doesn't. So I'm kind of
Yep.
curious to get your thoughts on the value of kind of being in-house somewhere and cutting your chops there.
I think it's the route that anybody should go if they're in a position where they can. Um, I like security. I've always liked security. It's actually sort of my wife who's more the one who pushes me to do things outside of my comfort zone. So, which is awesome to have. Like, it's really awesome to have because I wouldn't have gone to the event that I went to where I met the copy chief from Natural Health Sherpa unless it was my wife who was like, "Are you stupid? Just go. What are you doing? Buy the ticket." She like berated me into going. I'm sitting
Good
here
wife.
like, but I can't really justify the cost. She's like, "Hey, idiot, just do it."
Nice.
So that's awesome. But anyway, back to sorry, I like to tangent. With in-house, it's so crucial in my head to do that as you're starting out because of the data, because of how quickly you get to see the data. And I think that's one of the biggest things. But it also provides you just something that you can live on. And when you can live on it, you become a lot less stressed. And when you're a lot less stressed, you write a lot better copy. And you're also not having to constantly, reach out to potential clients or have prospect calls or whatever. Like, you become more confident, more secure, better copy, you learn faster, you see the data. Like, the only potential downside is, oh, I have a meeting at 11 a.m. or 2 p.m. or something like that. And instead, I want to be out doing something. Like, get over it. If you want to be a really good copywriter, like, just make the sacrifice for, even if it's just a year. You don't have to go in house for years and years and years. Um, but at least commit a year to it because you'll learn so much more than what you would even like 3 years the other way.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It is kind of sad that a lot of people have such, like I said, such an aversion to it. But like the roadmap is there. I've just seen so many people do it, and then, like you said, you learn everything. You're basically getting paid to learn, which is if you look at it that way instead of like, oh, I have to work for someone. No, you're getting paid to learn, which is insanely valuable. And like we said, the knowledge and the experience is what really matters for you down the long line. And if you look at it from that standpoint, it's really a smart decision. And I mean, the same could go for if you're writing long form copy, like cutting. I mean, I know working for like an Agora company is not the greatest pay, and it's not, um, and it can be like very hard and cutthroat. But if you're getting mentored by one of the top people at Agora, like Henry Bingaman or something for 2 years, like you're gonna be a pretty damn good copywriter in 2 years, learning from him. So yeah, I'm a pretty big fan of the going in house. Let's kind of jump to where you're at now. So you ended up leaving Sherpa, and you're now working with Jonathan Boyd, who's another Copy Accelerator member, who has a guitar offer that's just been zoom into the moon for the last year or so.
Yeah.
Uh, so give me kind of a rundown of what you're doing with your kind of email skills now to help him.
Um, so it's kind of an interesting transition to go from like the really hardcore affiliate swipe, direct response email stuff to now sort of a guru list. Um, I would say the biggest thing is that I can write really fast now. I can write a week's worth of emails super fast because I've just learned how to write without all the fat. And so I learned that you don't have to tell a long story to tell a good story. And it's like these little things that you pick up in the process of writing that really short, concise copy that helps you just be a much better copywriter when you're writing longer copy. So instead of writing 120 word emails, I might write a 300 word email, but every word still earns its place because I'm not writing with a lot of the fat that needs to be trimmed off. As far as the other thing goes, it's, segmenting, right? The things that you learn in segmenting for a big mass market list applies to any other list. Every company has tiers of buyers, and your goal as the email marketer is to get them to buy the top thing or buy the next level or buy something else complementary. And so taking over the actual list and working on the tech side of things, working within active campaign and segmenting and stuff, that's been the next journey, the next learning point for me, because I didn't do that stuff at Sherpa. So it's really been what I learned there is helping me write faster and better so that I have more time to learn the segmenting side and having time to like strategize. Okay, well, I'm going to run these emails to this segment and these emails to this segment. Meanwhile, I'm going to have a consistent daily email. So this segment's going to be getting 2 emails on these given day, whatever. It allows me to just sit back and be more strategic rather than having to constantly worry about the flow of emails that I have to produce.
Right. So I'm kind of curious with the way you and Jonathan are working together. Did you kind of partner together and you're getting like a cut of whatever you produce? Are you getting like a monthly retainer? How did you guys settle that up?
Yeah, so it's a pretty unique deal that I'm a real fan of, and is really it's a win-win deal for the writer and the list owner, because a lot of people will try to go for like a base, oh, I want X number of dollars and then I want a percentage. Well, the one thing that came up when Jonathan and I were chatting about working together was a base draw against revenue. So what that means is I have a base number that is like I'm practically guaranteed it every month, but I only earn it if I earn that much to the email list. So it's a draw against the revenue numbers. So for example, I'm just going to use a super low random number, 2000. If my base draw against revenue was 2000, I would earn 100% of the first $2,000 that I earned to the email list, and then a percentage on everything else on top of that.
Yeah.
So if you're the business owner, this is no risk to you, because if I come in and just absolutely suck, you're not going to pay me anything. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, there's some wasted time and you'll have to bring somebody else in to sort of take over the ship, but it's not monetarily, it's not a negative monetarily to you. And it's a super win for the writer because you still get that base. If you know what you're doing, you still get that base and you get to build in that rev share, which is incredible.
Right.
I don't think rev share is right for everyone, because I think newer copywriters would be better served to at least do flat fee stuff for a while, because there is a lot of on the line when you do have that rev share. But as you get more experienced, then I think it's the way you should go.
And I mean, most copy. I mean, I know it really your personality really matters a lot. There's a lot of people that are okay with doing flat fee stuff and can write great copy doing that. I know like me personally, how I am, I'm super driven by the performance based stuff. Like if you put me on a, if you gave me a flat fee income of like $5 million a year, I would turn into a pile of dung. I would just be terrible because I would just have no motivation to like keep pushing.
Yep.
And I think a lot of copywriters definitely kind of probably would relate to that. You're really driven by the performance based stuff. And so it's really smart from both your end and both the business owners end to kind of make that mutual agreement where the more sales you make, you guys both win.
Yeah. And it's been great because they weren't doing anything with the email list prior. So no matter what they're paying me, I'm found money.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter to him. Like the alternative is that there's nobody in there and there's no emails being sent out and $0 are coming in.
Yep. Nice. So one last question for you. So you're kicking ass now with the guitar stuff. You did amazing stuff with Sherpa. You have your email course that you recently put out with Tanner. I'm kind of curious, what's the next, let's say 6 to 12 months look like for you? What's the plan for that?
Keep pushing the email course. Definitely, because now it's an asset that Tanner and I have, which is such a good feeling, like to have that asset. You know, Carlene was talking about a Copy Accelerator, like release your book. You know, this is like our version of the book. And it's about something that's so niche and so specific that there's like no other email course on it. And like, I'm proud about recognizing like, hey, here's a spot that needs filled in teaching this type of email. So I'm super excited about that. Absolutely. I would say what I want over the next 6, 12 months, and this ultimately comes back to the revenue share deal, which is if I want to make more money, I just need to make my clients more money. I don't need to find more gigs. I don't need to find other gigs. I just need to make more money for what I'm already doing,
Yep.
which is a sweet position to be in. So I just recently took over Credit Secrets List 2. So I'm working with Credit Secrets and Breakthrough Guitar. And, you know, I just want to turn them both into 800-pound gorillas of email marketing, you know, and I want to make Credit Secrets and I want to make Breakthrough Guitar the Sherpa of their industries.
Right. Nice. I didn't know you were doing that with Jay. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So actually, I lied. I have one last question. You've been a Copy Accelerator member from the beginning. You were like, I was joking. The people who got in at the like original price was like buying Bitcoin at $500.
Yeah.
The price has gone up significantly since then. If somebody was watching this thinking about potentially joining Copy Accelerator or coming to one of our events, what would be your advice to them?
Do it. Kind of like the same advice that my wife gives to me when I'm questioning whether I should invest money to go to an event or join a mastermind. Hey, idiot, just do it. The reason is so many different facets to it. So I would consider myself one of the quieter members. Like I don't go to the jobs board a lot. I don't, I don't show up to every call because I'm busy. But what I do get from it is just the network. And when I left Sherpa, it was that network that helped me, not helped me, but like I was able to use that network to expand rather than starting back at zero of like, hey, I'm a copywriter. I can write emails over here. Does somebody want to come and hire me? It was like I had built my brand in Copy Accelerator so that when I did go freelance, people were like, hey, can we hire you? So I didn't have to feel that pain of like, where's my next client coming from?
Yep, that's big. It's really big. Awesome, man. So let's wrap up. I truly appreciate you coming on. This is honestly an awesome conversation. I can see your sales background because you're just like such a natural talker. It's kind of easy.
I just have fun. I have fun talking to people, man. I just really do. That's why I love the live events.
Nice. Yeah. Hopefully we can get back to them in September. Sweet, man. So really appreciate you coming on. If anybody's watching this and wants to follow up with you, what would be the best way to kind of get in contact with you? Facebook, website, what would it be?
Probably Facebook.
Yeah.
Find me on Facebook, or you could find me on LinkedIn, but truthfully, I check that maybe once every 2 months. So
All right, man. Sweet. So thanks again for coming on. Really appreciate you sharing your story, sharing your wisdom. I think a lot of people are gonna get a lot out of this and be able to apply it to their own business or their own copywriting careers. So thanks again, man.
thanks for having me, man.